Hello FPL managers and welcome back for another video. My name's Jack and today we're going over the knee-jerk reaction for Double Game Week 36, one of the two remaining Double Game Weeks for the rest of the season. If you guys are enjoying the FPL videos, drop a like and subscribe. We are trying to hit 12,000 subscribers by the end of the season, so please help us reach that goal. As always, have the notification bells turned on as well, as we are going to be uploading transfer plans, team selections, knee-jerks all throughout the rest of the season, so make sure you don't miss those videos. And with that being said, let's jump into the video. So today we're going to look over the most transferred in and transferred out players so far coming into Double Game Week 36 and give you guys a recommendation as to what I think about the transfers. Also, I'm going to go over a transfer watch list as well, where we look at some good players to target for Double Game Week 36. First off, let's have a look at the most transferred in players. No surprise to see here, Newcastle and Brighton assets being heavily transferred in coming into Double Game Week 36, as Newcastle and Brighton, the two sides with the Double Game Week in Game Week 36. And of course, Isak and Wilson as well especially are going to be two fairly low owned players that people are going to look to ship into their sides. Obviously, everyone's already got Kieran Trippier, March, Matoma, McAllister. They're already pretty popular assets from Newcastle and Brighton. But it's going to be the more differential options here. Wilson, Isak, Estupiñán, slightly lower owned than some of those other more popular options that I mentioned, and they could be great differentials for your sides for Game Week 36. I really like the looks of Callum Wilson and Isak especially. For me, it's a bit of a toss-up on which one I prefer. I did do a deadline stream for Game Week 35 a couple of days ago, and it seemed to be a common question on who is the better option from Newcastle for Double Game Week 36. In my opinion, I'd just say Isak, just because I think he's got a slightly higher chance of minutes. Saying that though, Wilson per 90 has been a lot better than Isak, so I can see why people still want to get in Callum Wilson. I might actually look to get in Callum Wilson in my team for Double Game Week 36, just because he's a bit more of a differential and I need a good rank rise for the rest of the year to try and push the rank up to as good as it can possibly be. So I think Wilson might be the guy coming into my side for Double Game Week 36. He has the second best expected goals per 90 out of any player in the Premier League this season that has played at least 1,000 minutes this year. That's a figure of 0.75, which is only bettered by Erling Haaland. So for Callum Wilson coming in at 7 mil to have a 0.5 expected goals figure per 90 is extremely good value. You're not going to get many players at that price with such good underlying numbers, and he has been fairly clinical as well. He's been taking his chances in recent weeks. Now 5 goals in his last 3 games for Newcastle. I'm excited to see who plays against Arsenal as well, what formation Eddie Howe's going to play, whether he goes 2 forwards up top, maybe he just goes one of Wilson or Isak. We'll have to see how it plays out. Also the minutes breakdown, who's going to play more minutes in that game, I'm not too sure. But maybe Wilson for me, just with the better underlying numbers, as I have that extra safety in knowing that even if he doesn't play the full 90, maybe only plays 30 minutes to 45 minutes, he can still be able to produce a goal in that time, whereas Isak, playing maybe 70, 80 minutes, might not be able to do so, let alone when Callum Wilson is playing the full 80 to 90 minutes. I think he's going to be a really good option. Obviously, Estupiñán as well, a really good Brighton asset, picked up a couple of clean sheets in his Double Game Week. He's a superb option to have in the sides. He also combined his 2 clean sheets with an assist, so I think Estupiñán, a great balance of attacking and defensive potential. He's good for getting goals and assists. He gets forward, probably could have easily had himself a goal in Game Week 35 as well for Brighton, or sorry, Double Game Week 34 for Brighton, should I say. He could have easily had himself a goal in that Double Game Week, so I think he's going to be a really good option for Double Game Week 36. He's been getting good consistent minutes as well compared to March, Matoma, McAllister, who have seen rotation across their Double Game Week. And I think with other future Double Game Weeks coming up and a pretty busy schedule for Brighton, there is going to be more rotation amongst the midfielders, so maybe you want to go for a defender, and Estupiñán is my favourite defender from Brighton. Looking at the more transferred out players now, no surprise to see Watkins here be the most transferred out player ahead of Game Week 36. I did have him in my team for Game Week 35, hoping that he could score a goal against Wolves for my FPL team, but he couldn't do so, just the 1 point there. And I think Isak and Wilson, 2 really strong replacements for Watkins at a very similar price, which will be easy to be able to get into your teams. So I think Watkins is probably a good chance to move him out now. I don't really like the Aston Villa fixtures for the rest of the season, so I think the time for owning Watkins was a few game weeks ago. Now I don't think he's as good a pick. His form has dropped off now, 4 consecutive blanks and some tricky fixtures coming up. So I think Watkins a good player to move on as well. Jack Grealish, a bit surprising to see him be transferred out ahead of Game Week 36, considering that Manchester City do have that double in Game Week 37. Yes, he got 0 points Game Week 35, which isn't ideal, but I do think there's going to be a lot of rotation in that Man City team, and across the year, Jack Grealish has been getting a lot of consistency in minutes in the Premier League, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the likes of Foden, Mahrez playing in the Champions League, and then we see Jack Grealish playing in the Premier League, but I think it's a bit too early to transfer out Jack Grealish. He's really good when he plays. He's been in some really good form when he has played for Man City. And with that double game week just around the corner, I think it's a good chance to hold on to those Manchester City assets. So for me, Grealish is a strong hold option. Tony, I also agree with the transfer out. I think Watkins and Tony, two players with slightly trickier fixtures for the rest of the year now, which I think are worthwhile moving out of the sides for those Newcastle forwards and either Wilson or Isak to target double game week 36. Plus, I do think there's a couple of other good forward options. Alvarez for Man City could be a really good pick as well. I'm actually going to discuss him a bit later on, but I agree with Watkins and Tony being transferred out. So with that in mind, let's have a look at our double game week 36 transfer watch list. So with these most popular transfers in mind, let's have a look at our 8 players that we've got on our transfer watch list for double game week 36. These are 8 options that I do think should have good points potential across the last 3 game weeks of the season. Starting with the Stupinian, obviously I touched on him a bit earlier on in the video. He hasn't got the best double game week this week in terms of fixtures. Arsenal and Newcastle, definitely a very tough double game week, especially from a defensive standpoint. But I think Estupinian is more of a player that has that chance of a clean sheet just because he's got the 2 clean sheets in his last 2 for Brighton. But also along with that, has that good goal and assist potential. Having that potential at both ends of the pitch is so good for a defender. And at just 4.9, could be a good option to jump on this week, as not only does he have a good predicted points for this week of 5.2 for game week 36, which you would definitely take from a defender of his price in any given game week if he scored around 5 or 6 points. But if you get him in now, you can be able to capitalize on a price rise ahead of double game week 37, as I'm sure he's going to be fairly heavily transferred in by managers, especially by the time double game week 37 comes around. So instead of waiting on him and not being able to transferring him in ahead of double game week 37, maybe because if you can't quite afford the extra 0.1 or 0.2 in price rise, that could also be a good reason to jump on him for game week 36. Mo Salah, he's also a good option. Obviously, a player that doesn't have any double game weeks for the rest of the season, unlike every player on this watch list except for Harry Kane. He's more in there because he's been in such good form and getting himself goals. Now 9 goals in a row at Anfield as well for Mo Salah. Got himself a goal in game week 35. This week he does have an away fixture against Leicester, but Leicester are a side that have massively struggled defensively since the resumption of the Premier League after the World Cup break. They've conceded tons of goals, have hardly got themselves a clean sheet. So I think Mo Salah is going to be a really good option for game week 36. 5.9 predicted points for game week 36 is fairly strong, considering that he only has the one game in his Arsenal for game week 36 compared to us to Brighton and Newcastle both have the double. I think he's going to be a really good option having the sides. The only thing I would say with Salah is that you could look potentially to swap into De Bruyne for game week 37. In my team, the initial plan was to go sell to De Bruyne for game week 36, but now since that Everton fixture for Manchester City is surrounded each side by Champions League fixtures against Real Madrid in the semi-final, I'm not too sure if De Bruyne is going to be prioritised for that Premier League fixture, so I do think he's going to be benched for Everton away, which in that case would mean Salah is still the best premium midfielder to own on FPL, and if you don't have him in the side, I would strongly recommend getting him in, even if you want to have him for the rest of the season and play him in each of his single game weeks. I think is going to be a really good option. Still has an excellent predicted points across the next 3 of 17.5, but I definitely would not be surprised if he does outscore this, just considering the form that he's in right now, the amount of chances that he's getting. He started to convert his penalties again, which is really good to see. So I think Mo Salah, an excellent player to have on the side. My favourite premium midfield option at this point in the season. Leicester away is a superb fixture in game week 36. Wouldn't be surprised if he walks away with a mega haul in this game, maybe a couple of goals, if not a hat-trick, just based on how poor Leicester's defence has been recently and how good Liverpool's attack has been recently in terms of creating chances, getting Mo Salah some chances as well. So I think Salah's going to be a really good premium midfielder to own. Looking at those Man City assets, though, speaking of De Bruyne, we'll start off with Alvarez here. Coming in at £6 million, I think he's going to be a great forward option to own and a potential good third Manchester City asset to own for double game 37. Obviously, a lot of people were looking to have either Haaland and one of Grealish or De Bruyne, but I think Alvarez could be a really good third Man City option, potentially even ahead of Grealish. I think Alvarez is going to be a player that I look to get in for my team as well. The initial plan was to go for Grealish in Game Week 37, but I really like Alvarez. He's started now 3 matches in a row for Manchester City, and with such a busy fixture schedule for City, with a Champions League fixture before and after their match against Everton, I wouldn't be surprised if Alvarez is rested for the Champions League matches and plays in the Premier League against Everton away. Obviously, this is a really good fixture from an attacking perspective, and Alvarez, a player that when he does start, is so good at getting on the score sheet. He averages over a goal and an assist per start for Manchester City this season, so I think he's going to be a really good option at 6 mil, such a cheap pick. He's also going to be a great differential, as he's got such a low ownership right now that I think Alvarez is going to be a really good player that can increase your rank if you do choose to have him in the sides for the rest of the season. As not only do I think he will start for Game Week 36 just because of the Champions League fixtures around Everton away, I also think he'll start Game Week 37 as well. Once again, with it being a double game week, I wouldn't be surprised if Alvarez gets the nod ahead of a couple of other those Man City players that would be playing in the Champions League and would be pretty tired from playing Premier League fixtures as well. Even if Alvarez just starts one of the 2 fixtures in double game week 37, I still think it's worth having him in the team, as when he's playing, he's very good at getting himself goals and assists. And you run the risk, of course, having any Man City player for any double game week that they're going to get rested for at least one of those fixtures. I wouldn't be surprised if Mahrez, Grealish, Foden, a couple of those other popular Man City attackers do get rested. So if you're just going to have a Man City player that's only going to get one fixture in out of the 2 fixtures in the double game week, you might as well go for a cheaper option at 6 million Alvarez, who's a lot more differential as well, that can seriously increase your rank if he does perform well. Kevin De Bruyne, of course, another Man City asset. I think the ideal Man City triple up for Game Week 37, assuming that De Bruyne is going to be playing in double Game Week 37 and hopefully doesn't get too much of a rest after there's going to be a very busy fixture schedule for Manchester City with an FA Cup final with Champions League as well. If De Bruyne is playing in the Premier League, he's going to be a really good option. So I think my favourite Man City triple up would be Haaland, De Bruyne, Alvarez. De Bruyne obviously with the second highest predicted points out of any player for the rest of the season, over 20 predicted points in his last 3 games. So I really like Kevin De Bruyne for that reason. It's just a question of whether he can play with such a busy fixture schedule. So I still like De Bruyne. Probably wouldn't look to get him for Game Week 36 just because I don't think he's going to start against Everton. But probably by the time double Game Week 37 comes around, I'd be looking to ship in Kevin De Bruyne in place of Mo Salah into my side, and potentially Alvarez in as well. Harry Kane also another really good premium asset to own. I think if you've got Haaland, Kane, and one of either De Bruyne or Salah, that'd be my preferred 3 premiums to have for the rest of the season. Kane has such a low ownership right now, only a 20% ownership inside the top 100k managers, and just a 20% ownership, 15% ownership should I say, inside the top 10k managers. So still extremely low owned. He's been really consistent in getting his point scoring. Yet another goal in Game Week 35, picked up a couple of bonus points as well. He's been so good, even with single game week fixtures, at outscoring players with double game weeks. He's got Aston Villa away coming up next, who just came off conceding to Wolves, who are a side that have struggled from an attacking standpoint this season. I wouldn't be surprised if Kane scores once again in this fixture. Still has strong predicted points for the rest of the season of 16.4. So I think I wouldn't even be surprised if Kane does outscore this. He's just getting so many chances. He's so clinical, and he's getting lots of bonus points when he does score as well. So I really like Harry Kane as a great differential. Yes, you have to pay a little bit more for him, but if you can afford to go for triple premiums, I think Kane could be such a good rank riser to have in the sides. I've had him in my team, and he's been so good at increasing our rank this season. And then finally, the 3 players on the watch list is the Newcastle triple up, Botman, Isak, Wilson. 3 more differential Newcastle players. Obviously, everyone's got Kieran Trippier, so he's not going to be on the watch list. But I like Botman, Isak, Wilson. 3 players with a very low ownership that could have good points potential for double gaming 36. Leeds and Brighton is an excellent double gaming for Newcastle. So I would be looking to triple up on Newcastle, if not at least double up on Newcastle for double gaming 36. Whether that's adding an extra Newcastle defender in place of Botman, or combining Botman with an extra Newcastle attacker in Isak or Wilson. I think either route you take will be beneficial. Botman has excellent predicted points for Game Week 36. 6.5 predicted points is very, very strong, especially for a player of just £4.5 million. Yes, Newcastle's defence hasn't been very strong recently in terms of getting clean sheets, but I think they should be able to improve their form for the final few weeks of the season. Leeds didn't look very attacking at all against Manchester City, especially with the appointment of the new manager, Big Sam. He's not playing a very attacking brand of football, is he? So I think Newcastle will have a good chance of picking up a clean sheet against Leeds there. Brighton as well, I think, considering that's a home fixture, that also gives them a decent chance of a clean sheet there. So if Newcastle could just walk away with one clean sheet out of their 2 fixtures in the double game week, Botman should be walking away with around 6 to 8 points because he does play most fixtures. So I think I really like Botman at 4.5. He'll be a really good differential, especially when a lot of people are looking to double up on Newcastle with either Isak or Wilson. Maybe adding in Botman as well as a third Newcastle option could be worthwhile. And of course, we've touched on Isak and Wilson quite a lot throughout the video. Isak, the player with the dramatically high predicted points for Game Week 36, which I find quite interesting. I think that's because Fantasy Football Fix do predict Isak to be getting more minutes than Callum Wilson. Of course, as I touched on, I do think Isak will be getting more minutes than Wilson, but per 90, I think Wilson will be stronger. So it's just going to come down to personal preference. Both extremely good options. Leeds away, a great fixture from an attacking standpoint. Brighton at home is also a pretty good fixture. Despite Brighton getting themselves two clean sheets in the last 2 weeks, they haven't been recording a massive amount of clean sheets in the last 5 to 10 fixtures, so I wouldn't be surprised if Isak and Wilson, given the form that Newcastle are in, keep scoring goals. Newcastle with now over 10 goals in their last 3 games. They've been so good at finding the back of the net recently, and I do think their form is going to continue for double gaming 36, which will of course see Isak and Wilson get amongst the goals, so have at least one of them is my recommendation for double gaming 36. Thanks for watching today's knee-jerk reaction video for Double Game Week 36. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, drop a like and subscribe. We are trying to hit 12,000 subscribers by the end of the season, so please help us reach that goal. As always, have the notification bells turned on as well so you don't miss any future knee-jerk reactions, transfer plans, team selections, deadline streams for the rest of the season. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.